Patience and unity the keys as the U.S. is still getting ready for action. The president says the noose is tightening around bin Laden and the Taliban. And in a CBS News exclusive, Secretary of State Powell says bin Laden's network will be the first to go, but hints that later Saddam Hussein may not be off the hook. Refugees flee Afghanistan and say they'd like a new government and eye on America. It's a whole new ballgame and national life as the country faces a new wave of caution.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Nearly 3 weeks after the attack on America, President Bush insists the United States is making progress on many fronts in the war against terror. Visible signs of the U.S. response are few. But in a one-on-one interview today, Secretary of State Colin Powell told this reporter the world coalition against terror is getting stronger. He also said Afghanistan's Taliban rulers shielding Osama bin Laden are increasingly isolated inside their own country. And Powell made a point of not ruling out an eventual attack on Iraq. More from that exclusive interview in a moment. First, about what President Bush did and did not say today.
We're a patient nation. We're a nation who's got a long-term view. A nation that's come to realize that in order to make freedom prevail, the evildoers will be forced to run and will eventually be brought to justice.
The president said little this time about using force to make the Taliban give up bin Laden and company. Mostly he focused on other areas, such as building the chain of evidence to bin Laden and the al-Qaeda terror network. As signs of progress, Mr. Bush cited hundreds of arrests in the investigation at home and overseas. He also said the United States and other countries froze $6 million in 50 bank accounts in the past week. In some cases, the president left it to others to deliver the message. Case in point, Pakistan's president said today the Taliban's days are numbered. This came as the U.S. approved a covert aid package for groups inside Afghanistan that oppose the Taliban. Also approved U.S. food and other relief for innocent Afghan refugees who fear what's to come. But these strands do not add up to the fabric of previous U.S. demands, namely that bin Laden be turned over immediately and his training camps shut down immediately or else. I asked Secretary of State Powell about this in our one-on-one interview a short while ago. Mr. Secretary, the president said in his address to the nation and to the joint session of Congress, and I quote, "The Taliban must act and act immediately. They will hand over the terrorists or they will share their fate," quote unquote. Now, they've not acted. They certainly have not acted immediately. They have not handed over the terrorists, but nothing bad has happened to them. Why not?
Well, I think a lot of bad things have happened to them. First, they have had diplomatic relations cut by 2 of the 3 countries in the world that recognize them. Secondly, we are working hard with our allies around the world to shut off financial support to the al-Qaeda organization, which to some extent supports the Taliban. The entire international community has mobilized against them. They are going to find more pressure being applied to them. And at the same time, the United States is preserving its military options, and there's a considerable buildup taking place in the region.
Mr. Secretary, I know that you are acutely aware, as every American is, we have 13,000 casualties, dead, missing, and wounded, if you put all of those together. And it's, if you'll forgive me for saying so, it's fine to talk about coalitions, fine to talk about financial pressure, but with 13,000 U.S. casualties, surely sometime we're going to do more than just put together coalitions and talk about cutting their finances.
Well, it's a lot more than that. What we really have to do is shut down terrorism, not just find a single place to take revenge out on or a group of people to take revenge out on. What the president has done, and I think he has the full support of the American people, is to put this coalition together to put in place a campaign that will go after terrorism so that these sorts of things never happen again.
Mr. Secretary, is or is it not administration policy to replace the Taliban dictatorship in Afghanistan?
Administration policy is to go after the al-Qaeda network and Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan, and if the Taliban does not realize that this could cause them a great deal of difficulty as well and might lead to their demise, they will soon come to that conclusion. But we are doing first things first, and first things first in this instance is to go after Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, and terrorist networks.
Has it been ruled out for at least the time being, something such as bombing targets in Iraq?
The president has focused on the first phase of this operation, which deals with Al-Qaeda and deals with Osama bin Laden and deals with the general issue of terrorism around the world. He has ruled nothing out with respect to second, third, or fourth phases of our campaign militarily.
General, there's been a lot of talk about presenting evidence against Osama bin Laden, but we now know, it's been confirmed, that bin Laden, while he says he wasn't responsible for these attacks, he did praise them and say, in effect, he was happy for them. Given that fact, do we need to present any further evidence? What other evidence would anyone need?
Well, we think he's guilty, and all roads point to him. We have assembled quite a bit of information, not evidence for a court, but information concerning his past actions with respect to the bombing of our embassies in Africa a couple of years ago, connections to the bombing of the USS Cole, connections going back to earlier acts of terrorism, his statements, and a lot of the information, frankly, is in the public domain. We read it in our newspapers every day, and we see it as arrests are made in different countries throughout the world, with these arrests increasingly tightening the ring around Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, making it clear to anybody who has an interest in it who is responsible for this.
Mr. Secretary, the Taliban now has indicated that it has bin Laden, it knows where he is, and he's still in Afghanistan. Do you believe that?
I don't know what to believe with the Taliban. A few days ago, they were saying they didn't know where he was. If they know where he is, then I would suggest it would be their best course of action to go knock on his door, pick him up, go get all of his lieutenants, turn them over to us, and then destroy all the camps that were left behind.
Is there a timeline on that, a deadline?
The President has established no deadline, but I can assure you we're moving forward rather deliberately.
Secretary of State of the United States and retired U.S. Army General Colin Powell, thank you.
Thank you.
For clarity, you may want to note that Secretary Powell did not say that Iraq eventually will be attacked. In answer to a question, he would not rule it out. In the investigation into the attack on America, CBS's Jim Stewart has more tonight about the chain of evidence that links the attack to the bin Laden group through the German connection.
Despite repeated warnings from administration officials over the weekend that more terrorist attacks in the U.S. can be expected, senior investigators say they can find no evidence that the 19 dead hijackers had any extensive support inside the United States. Instead, officials say they believe the plot was hatched in Germany, funded through the United Arab Emirates, and overseen by senior members of Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist network in Afghanistan. Sources say that is the rough conclusion of a classified report entitled The Case, now circulating within the administration. The study also finds hard intelligence that al-Qaeda operatives met with 3 of the young hijackers, including alleged ringleader Mohammed Atta, as recently as May in Hamburg. That money was passed directly to the hijackers by the al-Qaeda network in Germany. That the total cost of the operation is now estimated at well over $500,000, and that key al-Qaeda personnel fled Hamburg just days before the September 11th attack. At least one of the German moneymen was included in the list of 27 individuals and organizations released by President Bush last week, and investigators say the money trail has proven to be one of their best sources of leads. Agents have also run into anecdotal evidence that bin Laden's lieutenants insisted on a strict accounting of their funds. Just hours before they went to their deaths, 2 of the hijackers wired several $1,000s back to Germany. Agents say the men apparently felt they'd been sent more than they needed. Dan?
Jim Stewart in Washington. CBS has more now on this important German connection to the mass murder plot. From CBS's Tom Fenton, who is following the terror trail on scene in Hamburg.
The Germans have launched a manhunt for 2 Muslim fundamentalists believed to have provided logistical backup for the hijackers. Saeed Bahaji and Ramzi bin al-Shib are on the run somewhere tonight. Both are believed part of a 5-man terror cell which lived here in Hamburg, a cell that included Mohammed Atta, the man thought to have piloted American Airlines Flight 11 into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. As the web of clues begins to come into focus, it's clear the European connection is crucial. The most significant breakthrough may have been a phone conversation between followers of Osama bin Laden, intercepted by German investigators shortly after the suicide attacks. It referred to 30 people traveling for the operation. It's becoming clear that many more people overseas were involved in the planning, and many are still at large. What's also clear is that as the hijackers, their accomplices, and contacts passed back and forth through this port city, they left behind a long and expensive trail of flights, apartments, hotels, and rental cars in a plot that was hatched over a number of years. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Hamburg, Germany.
In contrast to years of preparation needed by the terrorists, the U.S. military has in less than 3 weeks moved an enormous amount of firepower to within striking distance of Afghanistan and, for that matter, Iraq. And as CBS News national security correspondent David Martin reports, the buildup is not over.
The aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk has left Japan to join the forces, including 3 other carriers marshaling for the Bush administration's war on terrorism. But the Kitty Hawk left its normal complement of jet fighters behind. With its flight deck empty, the Kitty Hawk can become a mobile operations base for special operations forces and their helicopters. They could launch from off the coast of Pakistan for raids into Afghanistan, either refueling in midair or at forward operating bases set up near the border. The Kitty Hawk may have already rehearsed it. 10 days ago, when it was still in Japanese waters, its flight deck was crammed with helicopters. Something very much like that has been done before. In 1994, when the U.S. went to the brink of war with Haiti, many of the troops who came ashore flew off the carrier Eisenhower. What soldiers said then is even truer today.
Obviously, the Navy, with their aircraft carrier, can take us to places we cannot go. We can use that deck then to quickly move the soldiers where they need to be.
And here's another link between then and now. The man who developed and commanded the Haiti operation was General Hugh Shelton. The same man who, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has been the president's chief military advisor for planning the operation against Afghanistan and Osama bin Laden's terrorist training camps. Defense Secretary Rumsfeld presided today at a ceremony honoring Shelton and immediately returned to the Pentagon for a meeting with all the nation's senior military officers to review the battle plan for the war against terrorism.
Military officers say they are now down to fine-tuning exactly which forces will be used for this operation. But it all takes time, especially the helicopters, which first have to be disassembled for shipment, then reassembled once they arrive. Dan?
David Martin at the Defense Department. Britain is America's chief military ally in the war on terrorism, and in a speech tomorrow, Prime Minister Tony Blair reportedly will tell leaders of his Labour Party that attacks on Taliban forces inside Afghanistan are coming soon. The 1 million residents of the Afghan capital of Kabul fear a U.S. attack, but today, instead of bombs, they got more than 200 tons of American wheat delivered by the UN Food Program. Still, thousands of other Afghans have fled their country, and as CBS's Alan Pizzi reports, many of them are now camped in and around Quetta, Pakistan.
2 weeks ago, Taliban forces told Gul Rahman and his neighbor Zahid they had to fight America. Instead, they escaped with their families to Pakistan. We came here because there's no food or water, and because of the cruelty we've been suffering, Zahid says. We fought the Soviets, but now we are tired. Gul Rahman says it's not the threat of American bombing that frightens him, it's the Taliban. If we don't follow the Taliban, they will kill us, he says. And the proof of that is what is missing from this picture. Men. The women have only tales of horror and photographs of missing loved ones. Sakina knows her husband is dead. The Taliban killed him, she says. They are from a tribe sympathetic to the anti-Taliban United Front. The repression is another sign that the Taliban's grip on Afghanistan may be slipping.
Do they want America to come and fight the Taliban?
Yes, they chorus, that is our wish. For those who have not fled, thousands of tons of food aid are being stockpiled in Pakistan. The hope is that if the food gets to the people inside Afghanistan, they won't have to become refugees. The Taliban is expecting American bombs and missiles. The first thing the people of Afghanistan will get from the U.S. is wheat. 400 tons of food aid is already in 2 convoys inside Afghanistan, and more will follow. Those who have fled Afghanistan say they won't go back to the Taliban. even if there is food. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Quetta.
CBS News has been told President Bush will allow Reagan National Airport in Washington and near the Defense Department to reopen soon with strict new security. Service in and out of the nation's capital will likely be phased in over time. It is the only major airport still closed after the attack on America. Coming up next here on the CBS Evening News, Eye on America. Tighter security suddenly becomes part of American everyday life.
This weekend, Enterprise Rent-A-Car announces special low rates from just $9.99 a day. Friday till Monday from just $9.99 a day. Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
1-800-RENT-A-CAR.
29, 30.
Now at Red Lobster, you can get 30 mouth-watering shrimp for just $9.99. Red Lobster, go overboard.
15 million people in America have type 2 diabetes, and my own grandmother lost her battle. If you have type 2 diabetes, it's more important than ever to watch what you eat and exercise regularly. And if that's not enough, ask your doctor about adding Avandia to your daily routine. Avandia is different from some diabetes medications. It helps your body use the natural insulin it's already making to help lower your blood sugar. With the addition of Avandia, a lot of people have been able to lower their blood sugar.
Avandia in combination with insulin may increase the risk of serious heart problems. Because of this, talk to your doctor before using Avandia and insulin together. Avandia may cause fluid retention or swelling, which could lead to or worsen heart failure. Avandia is not for everyone. If you have severe heart failure or active liver disease, Avandia is not recommended. Some people may experience weight gain with Avandia. Premenopausal women may be at increased risk of pregnancy. To check for serious liver problems, blood tests should be conducted before and during Avandia therapy.
Diet, exercise, and ask your doctor about adding Avandia. You can be stronger than diabetes.
Who'd you expect? Bob Dole?
Follow Mark Martin and the Viagra racing team this season.
Get to your doctor for a checkup and find out if a free sample of Viagra is right for you.
And for more information right now, race over to Viagra.com.
For all those who have difficulty bathing and for all those who care for them, take comfort.
Take comfort, take comfort. There's comfort bath, take comfort.
Comfort Bath. Thick as a washcloth, disposable Comfort Bath can be microwaved for a warm, soothing bath. Comfort Bath leaves skin soft and smooth.
There's comfort bath, take comfort.
Look for Comfort Bath at your drugstore.
20 days after the terror attack on America, America is slowly returning to some semblance of normal, or perhaps better said, at least settling into what will be normal in the months and years ahead. The devastating surprise attack has changed the nation, not just in and around Ground Zero, but far beyond. We are now a nation on guard, as CBS's Byron Pitts reports in tonight's Eye on America.
In ballparks across America this weekend, there were symbols of patriotism and signs of precaution.
Get you out of here in 1 second, okay?
Big guns and bomb dogs. Fans frisk not for beer cans or whiskey, but for weapons or explosives.
Anything in your pockets, though, ma'am?
And not a soul seemed to mind.
It's what you have to do these days. Everyone's talking about a war, and we have to all do our part.
In airports from Milwaukee to Hawaii, it looks like war. The president activated 4,000 guardsmen to watch the nation's airports. Pass a landmark or a water source or any amusement park anywhere in the country, you'll likely see a security guard or a safety precaution where there had never been one before.
There are going to be very significant changes in the daily lives of many people in this country for literally the rest of their lives.
William Bratton, New York City's former police commissioner, now a security consultant to Fortune 500 companies.
We have seen the enemy, and they are us in the sense that they're here, they're not over there.
It is the enemy within that has a nation looking over its shoulder. That sense of security, gone in a New York minute. So in California, gun sales have jumped 42%. Nationwide, stores can't keep gas masks in stock.
Come on, find it.
Mike Stapleton's security business quadrupled in a week. He doesn't have enough bomb dogs or metal detectors to service the demand.
People are asking for a response. People would like us to be on site 24 hours a day in some cases. It's taught us a lesson, and I think the lesson is that that we are going to have to pay a higher price for the kind of life that we want to live.
Freedom's never been free.
It's never been free, and it's never been cheap.
Some 6,000 men and women taught us that. It's a lesson not lost on anyone, at least not yet. Not as long as America the Beautiful is a nation at war. In New York, this is Byron Pitts for Eye on America.
The Supreme Court opened its new term today. It passed up a chance to rule on racial profiling, rejecting an appeal from a group of African-American men who say they were rounded up at random in a criminal investigation. And the justices gave former President Clinton 40 days to say why he should not be barred from practicing law before the High Court. This stems from the suspension of his Arkansas law license for giving misleading testimony in the Paula Jones sex case.
The pain was awful. It got so bad I wanted to lie down, but the pain just got worse. Then I rediscovered Extra Strength Bayer. Nothing's proven stronger, not even the leading prescription. Beautiful.
Bayer, take it for pain, take it for life. It's a different kind of Fixodent with no artificial flavors or colors. It's Fixodent free. Fixodent holds stronger, holds longer than any other free adhesive. Fixodent and forget it with Fixodent free.
We're finally going to buy my grandson a big boy bed. I was on chemo then, and I was exhausted.
If you're a chemotherapy patient and feel tired, you may be anemic. Ask your doctor about Procrit to regain red blood cells. More red blood cells can mean more strength. Procrit is proven and safe. In studies, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. Procrit is for patients with non-myeloid cancers.
He takes a lot of energy, but I never get tired of him.
I'm every man.
And every woman who ever suffered from frequent, persistent heartburn.
If you've treated your heartburn and changed your diet, but it comes back 2 or more days a week, then you may know about the burning pain of acid reflux disease.
But there's something about acid reflux that I didn't know.
Over time, that acid churning up can wear away the lining of your esophagus.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I didn't.
But today, there's a purple pill called Nexium. It's from the makers of Prilosec. Just 1 prescription Nexium a day gives many people complete resolution of heartburn symptoms.
That could mean complete heartburn relief.
And importantly, Nexium is also proven to heal erosions in the esophagus caused by acid reflux. Only a doctor can determine if you have this damage. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium and Prilosec are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. So talk to your doctor and call this number for more information and for a free trial certificate for Nexium.
Relieve the heartburn, heal the damage. It's possible with today's purple pill called Nexium.
What are you doing?
Laundry.
Laundry?
But I'm glad you're up. I've been waiting to vacuum. Breakfast. I'll pick up your tray when I get back from the market.
But it's Sunday. Aren't you going to lay around and watch football all day?
Not if I'm going to finish that roast in time for dinner.
Somebody had their Minute Maid this morning. It only takes a minute, but the feeling lasts all day.
Honey, what's the setting for chiffon?
In the Middle East today, Israeli and Palestinian officials met to discuss how to firm up their ceasefire, but those efforts were undercut by new violence. In northern Israel, young Israeli Arabs threw stones at police and troops and waved Palestinian flags. In Jerusalem, a car bomb exploded in a Jewish neighborhood, injuring 3 passers-by. The militant group Islamic Jihad took responsibility for the blast. In the disputed Kashmir region that borders northern Pakistan and India, on the Indian-controlled side, a car bomb exploded outside the state parliament. At least 31 people were killed and 75 wounded by the blast and by gunmen who stormed the parliament building. Responsibility for this attack was claimed by one of several Muslim militant groups seeking Kashmir's independence. And at the United Nations in New York, barely 2 miles from the World Trade Center, Mayor Rudy Giuliani noted that citizens of 80 countries died in the September 11th attack. He said the UN must, quote, hold accountable any country that supports or condones terrorism. The World Bank predicted today that economic fallout from the terror attacks will force an additional 10 million people worldwide into poverty next year. Countries dependent on tourism will be the hardest hit.
My business is more than just a business to me. It's my passion. So when my doctor told me I have asthma, I went to CBSHealthWatch.com. One click on Smart Search gives me exactly what I need to know about controlling my asthma, from medications to new treatments. With CBS Health Watch, I spend less time searching and more time doing the things I love.
Save time, get answers. Visit CBSHealthWatch.com.
Freezing chicken? Only Ziploc double guard freezer bags have an inner layer that clings to seal out air that causes freezer burn. Regular freezer bags don't. Put an end to freezer burn with a Ziploc double guard freezer bag. Freezing steak? Only Ziploc double guard freezer bags have an inner layer that clings to seal out air that causes freezer burn. Regular freezer bags don't. Put an end to freezer burn with a Ziploc double guard freezer bag.
Must have folded my millionth sweater. I'm starving. Want some chicken and stars? Condensed soup? That's for the kiddie section. We're big girls now. There's a better tasting soup. Progresso chicken noodle. Tender pieces of all white meat chicken with bigger slices of vegetables and just the right seasonings. See the difference?
Oh, you're right. This tastes better.
Now about those Mary Janes.
It's time to go to the better taste, the Progresso.
It's been 1 week that you looked at me. Cause you heard of the side that I'm angry. 5 days that you laughed at me, saying, forget me, come back and see me. Yesterday, you've forgiven me, but it'll still be today till I say I'm sorry. Chica like vanilla, it's the finest of the flavors. And it's the show cause I know the girl go is at my door and it's a banger. It's your life to sign a waiver. I have a tendency to wear my mind up my sleeve. I had this it's been 1 week since you looked at me. Dropped your ass to the side and said I'm sorry.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Vioxx, a prescription medicine available from your doctor. Or call 1-877-98-VIOXX for information. Vioxx.
Folgers Decaf. Really good coffee.
Breast cancer can hit your mother, your best friend, or you. Elizabeth Hurley talks about the battle against this dreaded disease tomorrow morning on The Early Show with Bryant Gumbel and Jane Clayson.
A ceremony at Fort Myer, Virginia today highlighted the changing times and the continuity that is America. To the sounds of a 21-gun salute, the chairman of the U.S. Military Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Hugh Shelton, officially retired after 38 years of traditional American civilian-controlled military service. He sported his black Army beret and reviewed the troops one last time. Shelton said, and I quote, "I am proud to report America's military is ready." And that's part of our world tonight. We hope to meet you back here tomorrow for the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
Once he was our friend. Find out why he turned on us tomorrow. Experience CBS News.
Call Domino's now and get a free order of our delicious cheesy bread when you purchase any large one-topping pizza for $9.99. Who would come up with such a brilliant idea?
My idea. All mine.
Make it a meal with wings and a 2-liter Coke. Get the door. It's Domino's.
Congratulations, Jim! Now you get to choose between the sleek German-engineered Volkswagen Jetta or a dream vacation